Good morning, distinguished members of the Pacific Basin Economic Council. I deliver this message as a member of the Business Advisory Council for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation and as the lead convener of the Private Sector Advisory Council, which is a large group of the Philippines' top CEOs, representative of our business communities, and organized to advise the new Marcos administration on matters pertaining to business, economics, trade, industry, and employment, areas in which we businessmen have direct experience, knowledge, and expertise. With both ABAC and PSAC, I am very happy to report that much progress has been made, both in cooperating with our regional neighbors and in addressing the economic challenges of our own country. As we begin to wrap up another tumultuous year for the world in general, we remain optimistic about the business outlook for the Philippines next year. 2 months ago, myself and other Philippine business leaders accompanied our president on a trip to New York with the objective of strengthening ties with our American partners and encouraging them to invest in the Philippines. In a speech I gave at the New York Stock Exchange, I called our country the next big thing in Asia and gave several reasons for doing that.
For the Philippines, the business community is facing our future with optimism. As a nation, we have proven our ability for resilience and the wherewithal to overcome even the greatest challenges. The administration is working closely with the business sector to make the Philippines the next best destination for companies looking for alternative locations for identified clusters in manufacturing and services.
Given the growing nature of the Philippine population, the exponential growth we have experienced in the recent past and are fortunate enough to see continue, I believe the Philippines continues to show promise for both local and international investments.
To be quite honest, our country has always been a rich country, rich in natural resources, for what should be a robust agricultural economy driven by a wide variety of crops, livestock, and fish, and harvested by the hardest working farmers in the world. We're also rich in natural resources for what should be one of, if not the most robust tourist economy in the world. It's widely known and well documented that paradise does exist on Earth, and it can be found in many of our 7,000 islands. As cliche as it sounds, when you see it, I guarantee you will believe in it. We're also rich in human resources. The average Filipino is of college graduate age, and so far, we have a tremendous talent pool of young, competent, and reliable workers who are educated, English proficient, strongly customer-oriented, deeply internet literate, highly trainable, and easily adaptable to all cultures and industries. And so because of this, Filipinos are one of the largest diasporas in the world, one of the largest users and consumers of data and internet technology in the world, and one of the most reliable workforces that huge multinational corporations turn to for outsourcing many of their business processes, not least of which are IT, customer service, and manufacturing.
We have a great enviable asset, the youth of the Filipino people, who have the energy and drive to work with loyalty and commitment, and who thrive in our English-speaking environment.
Much of our workforce is highly skilled. Philippine-educated engineers, technicians, food processing experts, financial consultants, healthcare professionals, and a good pool of capable and dedicated managers.
We need to focus on 3 priority areas: namely investing in quality education, promoting widespread digital transformation, and deepening our integration in the global value chain. Making high-quality education, particularly in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, accessible to our youth is crucial to economic development. STEM education will equip our future leaders and workforce with the necessary skills to transform our nation through innovative and sustainable solutions. While the pace of digital transformation has accelerated during the pandemic, we still have to bridge the great digital divide. To foster digital equality, public and private institutions should work together to ensure that underserved populations are provided access to affordable devices and connections, encouraged to be digitally literate, and protected from unscrupulous practices.
We also happen to be strategically located in the ASEAN region, being a critical entry point for over 600 million people. We have easy access to key markets in the East Asian economies and are at the crossroads of international shipping lines and airline routes.
As one of the fastest growing economies in the world, the Philippines has great potential to deepen its participation in the global value chain, which will create more jobs and drive more inclusive growth.
So, we've got what it takes. But if we have all these ingredients for a recipe for success, what has been keeping us from becoming the next big thing in Asia? Well, let me tell you. The missing and very elusive link has always been the right partnership between government and business, the right collaboration between the private and the public sectors, the right balance between strong, decisive, action-oriented political leadership and resourceful, experienced, and results-oriented business strategies. Politicians and CEOs putting their heads together to find the best solutions to the most difficult problems, and the President with the resolve to implement them immediately with the full support of Congress and the full mandate of the Filipino people. That's the winning formula, and it never comes easy, but I assure you, we're off on a very good start.
We at the Gokongwei Group wholeheartedly share and support our government's vision of a better Philippines for Filipinos. But we believe that we can only truly succeed if we succeed with others. Thus, we are one with our government and the entire Filipino people in working towards a more resilient economy, a better society, and a much stronger Philippines that is the next big thing in Asia.
Our history shows that this has always been our challenge, and understandably so. With so many players involved, how can we make sure that we all remain on the same page, follow the same path, and achieve the same targets for all our people? And this is where two critical points will be the deciding factors to look out for: the reputation of our business leaders and the political will of our chief executive. We are all in this together. If both look out for each other to ensure there is integrity, transparency, quality, and urgency in all the work that we do together, and in front of the eyes of our people and of the world, then we can finally remove the bureaucracies, the inefficiencies, the incompetencies, the inequalities, and injustices that are the roadblocks standing in between what the Philippines has been and what the Philippines very well will be. Thank you and good evening.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. And I hope you enjoyed that wonderful messaging from many corporate leaders from the Philippines, our friends at Aboitiz Group. Thank you so much for doing that. Mag Say, Frabel, and JG Summit Holdings. And to supplement on what was being said, the messaging is very strong and very clear there about the importance of being aligned between business and government in order to facilitate what we've been talking about throughout the day and a half so far, is this transition, you know, in tackling all the many issues like climate change, poverty, lack of opportunities in the job market, energy security, etc. All of these sort of buzzwords. I think, if I may, I will now quickly introduce Miguel, let him introduce, and then we'll get into a conversation, because typically we like to have a conversation, whether it's on our podcast series together or in private. So Miguel, great to see you again. Please unmute yourself, and love to quickly just introduce yourself for those who are not so aware of what you do.
I'm a director of Aboitiz Group, one of the multiple conglomerates in the Philippines. We have power, banking, food, and infrastructure as our primary businesses. Our CEO is Sabin, the person you saw in the previous video. And I've been a member of PBEC for, I think, about 3 years now.
And it's great to have you. You're always very supportive of what we're trying to do. And, you know, I think we've had quite a unique period where we've had 3 big summits in the region. We've had the ASEAN summit, we've had G20 in Indonesia and Bali. The ASEAN summit was in Cambodia, and we just finished at APEC in Thailand. I don't know if you were following any of those, but obviously with Sabin involved with the APEC Business Advisory Council for the Philippines, is there anything that you've noticed as a thread that's coming from all of what's being said from these summits, and that is particularly pertinent for the Philippines to think about?
I wouldn't say there's any immediate threat. I think the main issues are getting things done and getting things done within administration. It's very hard to get something done in one administration and continue in the next. So you have got to get it started in any administration. Luckily for us, it's at the start of the new administration just after the end of COVID. So we've got a clean slate, and we've got 6 years to move or to get things moving.
Yeah, so you mentioned that you wanted to share a couple of visuals. I don't know if you can share your
Sure.
screen. If you can't, I will help you with that.
I'll do that. I'll do that right now. I think you've disabled me.
Okay, I had to undisable you because it wouldn't let me play the video. But anyway, there we go. You're good to go now, Miguel.
Let me try again.
Yeah, perfect.
Can you see that?
Yes. Wonderful.
Okay, great. Aha. Oh, there we go. Yeah, the Philippines is recovering from COVID very nicely. Casino traffic is up, and GDP growth has 7.6% as of the third quarter this year, which is quite substantial. Banking lending activity has moved up substantially also. Airline traffic grew. I think as of September this year, it's already twice as much as the whole year last year.
Oh, wow.
We expect next mall and tourism to pick up, and there are signs that it is already doing so. The new government is pleasantly surprising many, both in and out of the Philippines. The appointed people in the Philippines, we have a lot of appointed people, more so than other countries. But the people who have been appointed are experienced and capable. They all have plans to work together with the private sector to develop infrastructure. And before, what used to happen is that they would always try to do everything themselves, and the government toward the end of the administration would find out that it didn't have the capacity to do many things at the same time. And then by the end, it was too late. It was already campaigning for the next president, and therefore out of 5 projects, only 1 or 2 got done. But now the determination of the government is to use the private sector as a way to get things moving. A private sector advisory council was formed, as Sabin announced earlier in the video, And the two objectives are to educate the president about each industry. No person can know everything about an industry and can be updated. So essentially, the president in each meeting is updated about one industry by the leaders of that industry, and to provide advice and support from the private sector leaders of whatever the president wants to do. The next thing to do is to support, organize, and manage all the ministers that we have that have been appointed to ensure their departments get things done or are getting started before the end of the government term. We've got a strong economic foundation this year. GDP's 7.8%. Inflation's 5.4%. We've got a responsive central bank. Every time the US increases interest rates, we increase it, I think, the day after. Very reactive central bank. They don't even wait for the next central bank meeting. Our overnight borrowing rate is at the moment 5%. BSP reserves are pretty high, 94 billion, which is 7.5 times exports or 6.7 times short-term external debt. So we've got a very good balance sheet. We've got two really reliable dollar earners, our overseas foreign workers, and also our business process outsourcing centers located in the country, such as call centers. So we have good sources of dollar income for the country. We've got a very dynamic energy sector. Our gas field volume is declining. And so there's a new owner of that field, and they're expected to drill more wells to extend the life of that field. Meanwhile, the users of that gas are working on an LNG transmission. At least two players are building LNG regasification facilities. The first shipments will be in 2023 for two of them. I think there's also going to be a third LNG player. So we're going to have multiple sources of gas, both local and international. No new coal plants that so far are under construction. Several new plants are being built. Most of them are LNG, solar, and wind. Offshore wind is being planned right now because that's when you run out of space with land. Offshore wind provides us with a lot of scale and also diversity because the wind plants don't generate power at the same time as the solar plants. We have multiple battery energy storage facilities under construction. Our own was just constructed, and I think it might be the first floating battery storage in Asia. I'm not sure.
Wow.
We have a lot of telecom players. We started with 2 players, and we now have 3 players for industrial buildings, etc. We've got like 7 independent large players who can provide internet. So there's a lot of competition. We've got the telecom tower industry, like other countries. The telcos are selling their towers so that each of their towers can be bought by independents. And those independents can put up to 3 different cell phone companies to use the towers. And so right now we have a shortage of towers, but we're going to not have a shortage of towers in the next few years because we're going to have a very dynamic tower industry. We've got a lot of big infrastructure projects coming along. We've got airports being privatized. We've got subway contracts that have recently been awarded, train contract that was recently awarded also. We've got a recovering real estate sector. Several REITs have been listed in the market, and I think today there was an approval for a 5th or 6th one to be listed on the market. And real estate profits.
Can you possibly go back one slide very quickly?
Sure.
The major projects. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
There we go. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is that good? Okay. Can you see that?
You're now back to real estate. It's okay. I'll get it off you later. No problem. Carry on.
Okay. All right. So real estate profits are increasing, driven by economic recovery. Mall traffic is picking up. I think the traffic is up by 50%. Substantial pressure to stop Philippine online gaming. So right now, about 10% of the office rentals are online gaming operations. These are, gambling operations. And these are remote gambling hosted in the Philippines, where most of the customers are from China. China has expressed that it does not like this. Many of our government people don't like this because of the other industry or types of crime it attracts. And therefore, there has been a big push politically to ban these or discourage these. And so we expect that over time that this will, the percentage of our real estate rentals for this will diminish, and they will move on to other countries. And now is the time to do it, because now that real estate is picking up at a high pace, then they can take up the empty offices that will occur after these POGOs move out. Banking is also recovering rapidly. Bank profit, almost all banks have profits are up, and lending is up. There are about 7 digital licenses awarded. They were just recently awarded, but I think we will see a lot of dynamic moves from these digital banks over the next 2 or 3 years. There are partnerships being formed, lots of joint ventures, foreign digital banks wanting to play in the Philippine industry in partnership with local banks. Our banks are well capitalized, and so we have no issues or worries about any any lack of capitalization if there's a liquidity crisis. Traditional banks are becoming more digital, so these banks know that they're going to have to compete with digital banks, and so they have a lot of their own digital offerings coming to play. So we'll have a very dynamic banking industry in the next few years. So basically, the Philippines is recovering. It's recovering fast and recovering very well.
Thank you. Thank you, Miguel. 1 second there. I'm just going to. Yeah, sorry, I was listening. I'll tell you what, it's an overall very positive story and narrative for the Philippines, it feels. And so just coming off your slides there for a second, what would you say, why would you say the government have taken this path? Was it because they felt, there's no money left in the coffers, they need to bring in the private sector regardless, or was it pragmatic about the Marcos new regime to say, not regime, but new government to say, the only way we're going to make progress is opening up our sectors to the private sector?
Yeah, I think it's the latter. And to be fair to previous administrations, this government has seen I won't say mistakes of the past or the history of unable to do everything all at once. And so they've taken a pragmatic approach and say, I'll do it with the private sector because I can do the greatest number of projects at the same time and finish it or get them started before the next administration.
And is that sort of then filtered with some sort of autonomy for Philippine business leaders to take a lead in partnering with foreign investors rather than going via the government? It's like peer-to-peer. They're trusting in their Philippine leaders to do the right thing by the country.
Yeah, almost all projects have some sort of partnerships with foreign governments, particularly in projects that require expertise. I mentioned the trains and I mentioned the tunneling. Almost all of those are all done actually with foreigners, because we don't have the tunneling expertise, we don't have the experience in running trains, and so the more expertise required, then the more participation there is from foreign private companies.
So in our last session, we were talking about energy and we had IFC involved, and Zia, who's with IFC as an investment director, she was mentioning that IFC works with the Philippine government on the policy to open up the telecoms sector. Do you see those institutional banks, whether it's World Bank, IFC, ADB, playing a role alongside business in financing some of these infrastructure related issues?
Oh, yes. Both IFC and ADB, and they've been really pushing on the energy transition. They've come up with financing schemes to close down coal plants earlier. They're trying to support LNG terminals because they know that's the next step for a dynamic switch from coal to LNG. They are supporting solar and other forms of renewable energy. So in the climate change movement, they are very supportive in that regard in terms of financing.
Yeah, and so flipping it, because I know we said to be short and sweet and everything was pretty clear in your slide deck. And if you can share that, because I believe the ones that I have, I don't have all your graphics in. So I'd love to have your graphics, the ones that I got from you. So please send that afterwards. Not now, it's not urgent, but
oh, yeah.
I want to share that with the members because it looks really fantastic. Everything very clear. But I wanted to talk a little bit, the last point is on education, because that's come through very strongly in a lot of our sessions as we look to the future. And I know you've got a passion as well with your involvement in the DDLS before or still. Do you want to share just a little bit about where you see that future and where you see opportunities in investment in education in particular in the Philippines?
Yes, well, I would say the vice president took on the job of education and she got quite a big budget. And so, and she was very instrumental in making the current president win. I won't get into the campaign dynamics for that, but that would mean that our second most important politician is in charge of education. So I think we will see a lot of support and a lot of things happening there because she has popularity, political power, and very, very strong support from the president.
So the message to everybody out there, Miguel, it's make it happen in the Philippines. Think about the Philippines now going forward in your strategy in the region. Would that be a true statement?
That would be a very accurate statement.
Wonderful. Well, Miguel, look, I don't want to keep you too long. I think you spelled it out very clearly that the Philippines is now back. It's a destination under this new administration and with the support of business leaders there. I'm pretty bullish now on what you guys are doing, having had other conversations and on energy transition, on opportunities in education, across the board, really, not just in those sectors, but across the board in Philippines. And so geographically well located in ASEAN with all the trade agreements that are being brought out. So yeah, the message out there to all the investors and business people, take another look or look at expansion opportunities in the Philippines, both from a domestic perspective and internationally. So we'll leave it there, Miguel, for now. Thank you so much for joining us today, and look forward to seeing you very soon in person at last.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity of presenting.
No, thank you so much. Thanks, Miguel. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.